In the great kingdom of Izigi, nestled deep within the heart of Ethiopia, there lived a fierce and noble warrior named Waziba. He was known far and wide for his strength, wisdom, and loyalty to the throne. Waziba had a loving wife and two sons, both of whom he was raising to follow in his footsteps as honorable men. For many years, the kingdom thrived under the rule of King Abeto, a just and wise ruler who was beloved by his people. However, fate took a cruel turn when the king fell gravely ill. The finest healers in the land tried every remedy known to them: potions brewed from rare herbs, prayers whispered to the gods, and rituals performed under the moonlight, but the sickness clung to him like an unrelenting shadow. His chambers, once filled with the vibrant laughter of court gatherings, grew silent as the scent of burning incense mixed with the weight of despair. Soon, the kingdom was in mourning as King Abeto, wrapped in the silken robes of his ancestors, breathed his last breath, leaving behind a throne with no heir and a land trembling with uncertainty. According to the traditions of Izigi, when a king passed without a direct successor, the highest ranking warrior of noble blood would ascend to the throne. That man was Waziba. His lineage and deeds made him the rightful ruler, and the people of Izigi looked to him with hope for the future. However, there was one who did not accept this fate: the queen, Niarai, widow of King Abeto. She was a cunning woman, intelligent and ambitious. Overcome with grief and fury, she refused to relinquish her power. Enraged by the decision favoring Waziba, Queen Niare gathered her loyalists, warriors who had pledged their allegiance to her. In the dimly lit halls of the palace, she stood adorned in mourning robes of deepest indigo, a sharp gaze reflecting the golden torchlight. With fire in her heart and ambition gleaming in her eyes, she stepped forward before the court, her voice unwavering as she declared herself the new ruler of Izigi. She accused Waziba of treason, claiming he had plotted against the king. Her words spread like wildfire, dividing the kingdom. She believed that as the queen, it was her right to rule regardless of tradition. With fire in her heart and ambition in her eyes, she declared herself the new ruler of Izigi. The kingdom became divided, fractured like clay vessels struck by a mighty blow. Some supported Waziba, believing in his strength and leadership, while others stood with Queen Niarai, unwilling to see a new ruler so soon after the king's death. Tensions rose, whispers turned to shouts, and soon the dispute erupted into outright conflict. In the royal court, Waziba and Queen Niarai faced each other, their gazes locked in defiance, the flickering torchlight casting long shadows across the polished stone floor. The tension between them crackled like a storm on the horizon, their breaths steady, their hands poised near the hilts of their blades. The weight of the kingdom hung between them, unspoken yet undeniable. "I do not seek power for myself, but for the good of Izigi," Waziba declared. "The law is clear. I will not let the kingdom fall into chaos." Queen Niarai's eyes burned with anger. "You think strength alone makes a ruler? I have ruled beside the king for years. I know this kingdom, its people, its needs. I will not stand aside while you claim what is rightfully mine." The dispute soon escalated into battle. The warriors loyal to Waziba clashed with those sworn to the queen. Warriors loyal to Waziba charged forward, their shields locked in defiance, while the queen's forces met them with unwavering ferocity. Blood was spilled on the sacred grounds of the palace, and the once united kingdom of Izigi trembled with uncertainty. The cries of the wounded rising into the night like the wails of mourning spirits. The kingdom, once strong and undivided, now trembled beneath the weight of its own destruction. As the conflict raged, Waziba faced the queen herself in combat. Niarai, though not a warrior by trade, fought with the ferocity of a lioness protecting her cub. But Waziba was a seasoned fighter, and he knew he could not let emotion cloud his judgment. At the height of the battle, Waziba managed to disarm the queen. She fell to her knees, breathing heavily, her pride shattered. "And it then," she hissed, "take the throne as you wish, but know this, my spirit will never bow to you." But Waziba did not strike. Instead, he extended a hand. "Izigi needs peace, not more bloodshed," he said. "Rule beside me, Nyarai. Together, we can rebuild." Tears welled in the queen's eyes, shimmering like the last remnants of a storm. Her breath hitched as she stared at Waziba's outstretched hand, the weight of their battle pressing upon her shoulders. After what felt like an eternity, she reached forward, her fingers trembling as they met his. The war was over, but the scars would remain. Thus, Waziba ascended the throne of Izigi, yet he did not banish Queen Nyarai. Recognizing her wisdom and the depth of her understanding of the kingdom, he chose to rule with her counsel by his side. Together, they forged a new era, one that healed the wounds of war and ushered in a golden age of prosperity. And so, the tale of Waziba, the warrior king who triumphed over strife and division, became legend, woven into the very soul of Izigi, passed down to generations as a testament to strength, wisdom, and the power of unity. But the battle was far from over. Queen Nyarai's ambitions refused to wither. She could not resign herself to the role of mere advisor, a shadow to Waziba's reign. Driven by an insatiable hunger for power, she vanished into the uncharted wilds, seeking forces beyond mortal comprehension. She rode alone under the pale moonlight, her cloak billowing behind her like the shadow of a vengeful spirit. Legends whispered of forbidden knowledge lurking in the farthest reaches of the land, where the wind carried the voices of the lost and the trees wept blackened sap. Through treacherous mountains and cursed rivers she pressed forward, her heart alight with determination. In the abyss of the unknown, the shadows whispered to her, beckoning, offering power at a terrible cost. Her path led her to the cave of Nuru, a place where dark spirits were said to dwell. Legends spoke of an ancient power hidden there, one that could grant dominion over kingdoms, but at a terrible cost. The air inside was thick with the scent of decay, and the walls seemed to pulse as if the cave itself was alive. At the heart of the cave sat a hunched figure cloaked in darkness. The being's voice was neither man nor woman, neither young nor old. "You seek power, Queen Nyarai, but are you willing to pay the price?" Without hesitation, she nodded. The figure extended a withered hand, holding a small vial filled with a swirling, blood-red liquid. "Drink this, and you shall command the strength of the spirits. No man, no warrior, not even Waziba will stand against you. But beware, the power you seek is never truly yours. It belongs to the darkness." Queen Nyarai took the vial and swallowed its contents. A burning sensation tore through her veins, her eyes darkened, and a terrible scream echoed through the cave. When she emerged from the depths of Nuru, she was no longer the woman she once was. The spirit had made her stronger, faster, unstoppable. But deep within, something else had awakened, something sinister. With her newfound power, she would return to Izigi, not as a queen, but as a force of destruction. Back in Izigi, as dawn broke over the forest, Waziba made his way to the sacred river of Jabi, a place of peace where warriors sought guidance from the spirits. He stepped into the cool water, letting it wash over his weary body. The weight of the battle ahead pressed heavily on his soul. As he closed his eyes to meditate, a soft voice disturbed the silence. "Waziba!" His eyes snapped open, and before him stood an old woman, her skin wrinkled like the bark of an ancient tree, her eyes glowing with a wisdom beyond time. She leaned on a twisted wooden staff, her presence both fragile and powerful. The queen has given herself to the darkness, and no blade can pierce what she has become. Waziba's fist clenched. Then how do I stop her? The old woman smiled, revealing teeth worn by age. Water and salt. Waziba frowned. Water and salt? The old woman nodded. She is bound to the spirits of the deep night. The only force that can break that bond is the purity of water and the power of salt. When the time comes, you must use it against her. Only then will she be weakened. Waziba pondered her words. The river, a symbol of purity and life, and salt, a force of preservation and cleansing. Together, they held the key. Before he could ask more, the woman stepped back, her form fading like mist in the morning sun. Do not forget, Waziba, the darkness does not let go easily. Then she was gone. Waziba stood in the river, his mind racing. He now had a weapon, but would it be enough? With renewed determination, he set off to prepare for the final battle. After many moons, the queen returned, but she was no longer the woman the people had once known. Her eyes burned with an eerie glow, and an unnatural force seemed to radiate from her very being. She had found what she sought, power beyond imagination. She stood before the gates of Izigi, her army of shadowy warriors at her back, and declared war upon Waziba and all who stood in her way. Back in the palace, Waziba called the attention of the palace warriors. He told them to be ready for battle, for the queen had returned with newfound strength and a fearsome army. Prepare for war! His warriors, seasoned and loyal, nodded in solemn understanding. Knowing the dangers that lay ahead, he made a painful decision. With a heavy heart, he turned to his wife and two sons, his gaze lingering on them as if memorizing their faces. He ordered a small group of his most trusted warriors to escort them to the neighboring village, away from the coming storm of blood and darkness. Go swiftly, he urged. Do not look back. As they departed into the night, Waziba felt the cold grip of dread settle in his chest, for he knew the queen's wrath would not be easily outrun. But fate was cruel. As they journeyed through the dense forests leading away from Izigi, they encountered Queen Niarai and her army. Dark shadows moved through the trees, and an eerie silence filled the air before the storm of battle erupted. The queen's soldiers surrounded Waziba's family and their escorts, cutting off any hope of escape. The queen showed them no mercy. With a heart consumed by darkness, she led the slaughter, cutting down the king's warriors without hesitation. In the chaos, Waziba's wife fought valiantly to protect their children, but she was struck down before she could escape. The second son, still too young to defend himself, fell to the queen's blade. Only Waziba's firstborn son managed to flee. Bloodied and breathless, he made his way back to the palace, where he collapsed before his father's feet. With trembling lips, he recounted the horrors he had witnessed. The news of the brutal massacre shattered Waziba's heart. Pain and fury coursed through his veins, and grief turned into an uncontrollable rage. He could not stand idly by while the queen defiled his land and slaughtered his family. With fire in his eyes, he summoned his warriors. We march at dawn, he declared, his voice like thunder. Niyarai will answer for her crimes. Thus, Waziba and his warriors rode out, determined to put an end to the queen's reign of terror once and for all. The battle for Izigi had become personal, and the warrior king would stop at nothing to avenge his loved ones. Going into the deep forest, the air thickened with an ominous presence as Waziba and his warriors ventured into the heart of the cursed forest. The trees loomed like silent sentinels, their gnarled branches twisting toward the sky. An unnatural wind howled through the canopy. Waziba noticed the strange wind and eerie sounds, and he put his men to a halt. He opened his small pouch and brought out the salt and water mixture, a sacred tool meant to ward off dark forces. As a leader, he stepped forward cautiously, sensing the unnatural presence in the air. Then, without warning, Queen Niarai emerged from the shadows, her eyes glowing with dark power. With a swift and vicious strike, she swung her sword, cutting deep into Waziba's left arm. Pain surged through him as he dropped the mixture. He gritted his teeth, his vision blurring from the sudden agony, but his resolve did not waver. The king's warriors fought with all their might, standing fiercely beside their ruler. Amidst the clash of swords and cries of battle, one of Waziba's loyal warriors spotted the fallen mixture. With unwavering determination, it dived to the ground, rolling past enemy blades and seized the sacred mixture. In a single fluid motion, he hurled it toward the king. Waziba, with the reflexes of a seasoned warrior, leaped into the air, twisting mid-flight to catch the mixture in his grasp. As he landed, he swiftly uncorked it and flung the contents upon the queen's face, his movement as precise as a falcon striking its prey. She screamed and fell to the ground, face down. Immediately, the demons shrieked and vanished into the night, their hold on her finally broken. The queen lay weak on the ground, her breath ragged, her once powerful presence now reduced to a mere shadow of itself. Waziba stood over her, his sword gleaming under the moonlight. With a heavy heart but unwavering resolve, he drove his blade into her chest, ensuring that her reign of darkness would end forever. Waziba lived in peace and ruled his people with wisdom. As he grew old, he prepared his firstborn son to take the throne, guiding him with the knowledge and experience gained through years of leadership. When the time came, his son ascended as king, leading the people of Izigi with the same honor and strength as his father before him.
And that was another page from the Story Library, your portal to endless stories, where stories refuse to stay closed. If you enjoyed this chilling tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and come back soon. Thanks for watching.